Let's talk about credit cards, what they are, how you can level up, and why it only really takes you around 4 years to get all of your lifetime credit cards. And what I mean by that is you can really get all the credit cards that you need in such a short amount of time if you just consistently apply for them. You're paying all your bills, you're doing everything that you need to. So I'm going to discuss that a little bit more today. Because I was talking with some friends the other day, and a lot of them are stuck, with basic credit cards that maybe you could have a lot more value or a lot more benefits doing the same things that you usually would in life. So let's talk about what that is. So your credit score is basically a big number that determines whether people trust you. It's like your reputation, basically. And after you get a certain credit score, you could basically do a lot of different things, either governmental, legal, or getting loans, getting a loan on a car, buying a car, financing. Basically, allowing you to get money that you will repay back eventually, but at a better rate. And so that's basically the point of having a credit score. It's easier to get a mortgage, it's easier to get loans, it's easier to get finances, and that number carries with you throughout your entire life, basically. So it's really important to have good credit because it's your reputation, and whether people are trust you or not is based off this number. And the government, reports it, and all these other companies they have it as well. And so that reflects on how you are as a person. Are you trustworthy? Do you pay everything on time? That's just like basic principles of a credit score, basically. Just always pay your shit on time. Um, yeah. If you always pay on time, you will not have debt. A lot of people in our generation, they have a lot of debt, and specifically from credit cards or student loans and stuff like that. If you always pay on time and you never overcommit to, I have these certain things that I need to pay. I know I need to pay it by this time. I'm not going to go over it. I can avoid debt at all costs. And the thing with credit cards is this funny thing that keeps you in this sort of debt cycle over here, which I'll discuss a little bit. But if you always pay in full, that is, you don't pay the bare minimum. You're always paying everything at the end of the month. Everything that you spent on your card, you pay in full, so that the company has it and they can't charge you interest. That basically allows you to not get into that debt cycle at the end of the day. So always paying in full and always paying on time at the end of each month, which is usually how most credit cards do their cycles, is very important. And so having a credit card, these are kind of like the benefits of having a credit card. You're probably just like, okay, well, you just explain, credit score that helps me, get money that I can pay back. It's all this debt stuff, and why should I? Okay, but why should you actually have a credit card? Well, regular debit card, if you use that your entire life, it's basically like using cash. And there's companies that will reward you if you, pay on time, pay in full, and actually lose money in some cases if you are maximizing the value of their credit cards that they're giving you. Because the whole way companies make credit cards is that they are relying on these two things to happen. One, that you don't pay on time, and two, that you will not pay in full so that they can charge you interest and so that they can collect your debt. That's how they make money a lot of the times. So if you don't do those two things, here's what you should basically be looking out to do. For each credit card, you should have, I guess, like an expense. So each credit card, which we'll discuss over here later, is tailored towards, I guess, a particular value or point that they're trying to sell you to be able to get you to have it. For instance, there's a card that maybe gives you more value if you spend it on food versus one that helps you pay rent or something like that. So you're trying to maximize the reward value, but also minimize the risk tolerance that you have as a person to be able to pay it on time or not pay it on time or pay it in full or pay the minimum value. So that's basically the point. And you'll be happy at the end of the day and you'll be like this little pig here. If you're able to maximize your value on the cards, screw the companies, the credit card companies, and pay it on time, pay it in full. So this is what the debt cycle looks like. If you're not familiar with it, this is very brief on how it goes. So you spend some money at the end of the month. Um, like there's a total amount that you have paid, whether that's food, bills, rent, whatever it is. At some point, you're unable to pay if you have a credit card. So you must pay this at the end of each month to this credit card company, right? I mean, you have to pay all bills eventually at some point. Um, but if you're unable to pay it for whatever reason it may be, they're going to offer you a minimum payment, and this is where the trap starts. A minimum payment basically says, okay, you pay us this amount, but because you did not pay us the full amount at each month, we're going to charge you a percent interest of the total amount that you did not pay us for your next cycle. Okay, cool. Now I have interest. Okay, I can pay that back. But let's say that you have to spend all this money on this other things for the next month, and you still haven't paid back. This company that is telling you that you need to pay us back. Oh, so now I have to go to the minimum payment again, and now they charge me interest. So this basically collects itself. Like this is recurring debt. You spend stuff that is necessary for you to live each month. If you're unable to pay that, you have to pay the minimum payment because if not, you go to debt collection agency or you'll go to jail. Um, because you can't can only pay the minimum payment, they have to charge you interest. But then you have to spend stuff for the next month, the money that you need to live, so you're unable to pay it. So now you have to do the minimum payment and you charge them, and so the interest just consistently stacks up, right? And so that's super not ideal, and why you should always pay on time and pay in full. Because if you don't pay in full, that basically means you're paying the minimum payment, and then you get charged interest, and that's not a fun cycle. But let's talk about like the credit cards. I guess like you should be looking after, like if you're in their 20s, because this is about for people in their 20s. Because I truly believe like you can get every single credit card that you would desire, that is optimal, and like not have to spend like a shit ton of money um, within 4 years, which is the amount of time that it usually takes to graduate with a bachelor's in college. So that's what I mean by like lifetime cards. So you know. This is not financial advice. This is, I don't know, whatever it may be. This is just like my personal interpretation, how I went about things, and how I see like credit cards and how they work. So first we have like the student. So imagine, I don't know, you turn 18, you're like, oh shoot, like I can get, credit cards, or, I'm in college, like what should I do? So there are student credit cards, right? This is the first thing that you apply to. It doesn't really require that you have any credit history. And like some examples here are the Discover Student, which is a lot of the times that they market themselves for. It's like the first credit card that you get like points. You get per each quarter, so there's like 4 quarters within the entire year based off how these credit card companies do it. And then each month there's some sort of benefit that you get. So one month it might be, oh, I get 5 times miles or points on gas, and or with this active cash, I get 2 points for every dollar that I spend on anything in the world. And we'll get into more like why these are like the rewards and values that we want to maximize with these companies, and I'll explain why those are important in this other section over here. So that's like the student section. Then we get to like the semi-pro. Maybe like you're in your second or third year. And these assumptions are based off of a few things that I'll just rate here for a quick. Uh, One, they're based off of you have an income, and two, that you use that income to pay credit cards, right? This is obviously assuming that you have a job that you're able to pay, and you're consistently, either improving your income, or, you're improving your credit in some way. So improving your credit in some way could also mean that, you rent, you pay other bills, which go towards credit. So this might be other debt or houses. Those are the main things that come to mind. So like student debt, paying rent on a house, those all involve credit. So yeah, those are the assumptions that I make here. So semi-pro is basically like these sort of cards, and this is from a YouTuber that I watch. I didn't like him. John Lang, basically, he has this, or Brian King. There's a bunch of them that I watch. Anyways, this is kind of like their masterclass. I don't agree with all of these, but you can go check out their videos. I'll leave a link in the description. Basically, how you should progress in terms of like credit cards as throughout. I don't recommend getting like 11 or 12 of them. I personally only have 6. I'm content with the 6 that I have. I don't intend on getting any more. I think I've maximized all my value from each of them for my life. But semi-pro, so this is like the Chase Flex, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, um, and the Built just got rebranded though, so now they're kind of like not as good as they were. But the Built was basically a card that allows you to get money on your rent, and then you can convert that to other different rewards and use it locally and stuff like that. So the work one is kind of like, I don't know, you're kind of like nearing the end of like your college career. Maybe you could spend a lot more money. Maybe you have like a lot more income that's disposable. You don't have as many expenses. You're about to head out into the workforce. This is like the Amex Gold, which is a really popular one for I guess like food is like the big thing. The Capital One Venture X is like a travel card that's good. I think it's like 5x or 10x on their travel portal. I mean, obviously, like all of these, like these are just example of the cards. They all have their pros and cons. I'm not gonna say like the Amex. I know like they're notorious for having high fees, or like annual fees and stuff like that. Or like the Venture X, like all of these higher level cards do have that. I'm not gonna say like they don't, but I mean, for that reason, you need to ensure that when you are purchasing, or when you are applying to get these cards, and you know that you're going to have that annual payment, basically, that you need to make sure that you get the most value out of it. And so a lot of the times when you get these upper division cards that we have here, they're going to say like, oh, you get like $10 of Uber credit each month. That's like the Amex Gold. Or we'll give you like a $50 hotel credit voucher. Make sure like that you're using these benefits, because otherwise you're paying $325 for a card that gives you points, but there's all these other things that make it much more worth it, right? And that's up to your personal interpretation if they're good or not. um, and you start to become mischievous, and you start to realize how much benefit there are in some of these cards. So another thing that is like pretty useful are these like work pro cards. So this is like later down the line, like you're graduated, you're there working, you have your own business, any business card, Amex Platinum, like these are cards that usually have high annual fees. They might be worth it or not for you, or maybe they're good for your business, up to your interpretation. Those are just examples. Um, so another thing that I want to talk about is, I guess, like you have an expense. Each of those expenses can be categorized. For instance, like I said, food, travel, rent, whatever it may be. Try not to jump into multiple ecosystems and get yourself tied up. I don't want to see like you have like Amex, Capital One, Chase Sapphire. Like it just becomes a pain in the ass. Like optimally, like you would, and obviously some ecosystems are technically better than others, or some get nerfed at a different quarter and stuff like that. But try if you like stay with Amex, try to stay with Amex and like maybe one other one if you think it's necessary. Like I would recommend two. That's just my personal take. And then you'll be a happy college student. So let's give an example of, I guess, some of the benefits for like the credit card game that I was talking about. So each credit card in their ecosystem, they have points. Within these points, you can convert those into other rewards. So some of the common ones that I'll list here, let's see. So some of the common ones that they have is, let's say, like, so points is basically equivalent to miles, by the way. So 4 points in miles, we basically have, you can get a credit card, statement credit, you could get gift cards. But we're mainly after is the travel or hotel points slash conversions. And so this is a big thing for a lot of people and why they use a lot of these credit cards. And of course, you're free to use the statement credit or gift cards, but mathematically, I'll talk about over here, the value for them is a lot lower. But if that's your preferred way of doing it, that's up to you to, use it in that way. So basically, so there's two websites that I know of. There's probably more out there, but Award Hacker and Sheets.arrow. So I'll talk about this. So basically, you can calculate what the value of your points is per credit card. So for each ecosystem, that's different. 1 point in Chase might be 2 cents, and in I don't know Capital One, it might be 5 cents or something like that. It all depends on what the value is and what other companies deem that value is, and sometimes they set it themselves, right? And a lot of the times there will be a special promotion or credit. So that basically means you get more points per dollar. Or, I'll show you in this example down here with Patrick. And when you have the special promos for more points per dollar, and these don't happen, too often and stuff, but this is like a big reason that they do, or like the reason is like you can convert these to airlines, hotels, or other sort of benefits. And so what these two websites here they do is Award Hacker and Seaside Arrow. They basically these are just flight examples. There's hotels and other stuff as well that you can go shop around for. They will find you like the most optimal point value for a given flight or a given scenario that you have given it. So, for instance, let's take this example for Patrick's vacation. So Patrick, he wants to go to Good Lagoon, but he's super far. But he's in two different ecosystems, and he wants to determine like the value for the given points that he has to be able to go to Good Lagoon. But he's not really sure, so he wants to compare the scenarios. So these are called transfer partners. So when you have a credit card like Chase or Capital One, and you want to transfer it to, let's say, like Delta that I have here, or United Airlines, whatever airlines it may be. Let's do this example. These are called transfer partners. They're basically allowing you to convert your points that are some value in one ecosystem to their personal ecosystem. So Chase to United, Capital One to Delta, whatever it may be. So let's take these two scenarios. So value is the cash minus the fees divided by the number of points or miles times 100. You can do your calculations here. I already have them in my head because I did this example. But let's say Patrick, he has 37,000 points in Chase. The flight online for Delta right now is $450. But let's say that Delta has a promotion for 1 to 2 points. So that means I'll write it here. I'll have 37,000 points times 2 in the Delta ecosystem now. And so now it's 1.2 cents per mile per point in this ecosystem, which is more than that. Let's assume that it's more than that in the Chase ecosystem. Maybe Chase is like 1 cent per point or something, or 1.1 cent per point, right? So now we basically have 37,000 times 2 points in the Delta ecosystem. So we've doubled our points value. And so 37,000 points, I believe, is 450 in the Delta ecosystem when you do this conversion. And you can do those yourself if you want to do another scenario sort of thing. But now basically what we have done is, because they have this promotion where I can convert my points in my Chase ecosystem to the Delta ecosystem, I can basically say I have doubled my value in terms of points. I've literally doubled my money that I would get if I had redeemed the Chase in the Chase portal for anything else. Because the thing that you have to realize here is that there's two ecosystems. So there's the Chase ecosystem, and there's the Delta ecosystem. But your points in here are not the same. So when you convert the points, they're not the same. Your points are not the same because the value that is interpreted from Chase is not the same as the value interpreted from Delta, basically. So that's why it's important to see if I'm going to buy a flight through the Chase portal because they have their own individual portal. So Chase has their own, Delta has their own. Chase likes to boost up their prices because they don't want you to get as much value. That's how they make money, or not lose money, I guess. And yeah, so because they have different ecosystems, you should basically check what is the value in Chase and what is the value in the Delta portal. Compare the two. If you realize that your value is a lot more in the Delta ecosystem, then you take the offer and then you convert it. But if it's better in the Chase, you should still convert it in this case because the promotional value is a lot more. Because it's 1 to 2, you double your money rather than this one is still being lower than the one in Delta, but you should still convert it because you get double your money. But then let's say you have Capital One, they have 45k points. It's 1 cent per mile. There's no promotion, um, and so let's like you could do the same comparison as well. Is the flight is $450 in Delta, but you have 45k points, and let's say that inside of I don't know inside the Capital One, it's the same as Delta. I mean, obviously in this case, you should, and I say obviously because in this case you should just use the Capital One. Why? Because well, you would have to know like the card and stuff for this. But if you spend in Capital One equals value for Capital One. But the same thing could be said about Delta One, or not Delta One, about Delta. Delta spend equals Delta points as well. So you just need to see like what ecosystem that you value the most in the case. Let's say I want more points for or spending the points in the Capital One ecosystem, or I want like that reputation in there. Then I'm going to spend it in Capital One because I might have like a little bit, extra leftover. And then whatever I pay in that leftover after I use the points, I will get as value as booking a travel trip in Capital One. But if I want to go to Delta, for example, and I want to spend points on Delta, because I want like the miles or whatever that they'll give me from buying this flight using miles, then it'll convert into that ecosystem instead, and it won't be in Capital One. So you basically just need to understand like there's a lot of complexity to this, honestly, but it's basically about trying to find and maximize the value that you can get per credit card per whatever conversion. And obviously, that conversion might look like gift cards or credit card statements or something that you can redeem in the app, which is a lot easier for some people. But for me, I like to travel a lot, I like hotels and stuff, so I like to do this a lot. And I'm always calculating, I'm always checking for like different deals, brand promos, and stuff like that. And yeah, so take a look at, I don't know, this sort of thing, look online for other resources. You could get a lot of credit cards. You can get a lot of value from them. I personally like have used a lot of these like award hacking things to travel literally for free. So you're constantly paying for things over time. There are some things that you must always pay. So you're always going to be getting points. So what's the reason to not increase the amount of points that you have and be able to travel for free by having a credit card? There's really no downside to it as long as you maintain these sorts of things here on these bullet points. I can assure you that having a credit card is definitely worth it.